In 1850, Abraham Lincoln was elected as our 16th president. Upon his election, South Carolina, Mississippi, Florida, Alabama, Georgia, Louisiana, and Texas voted to leave the Union. These states formed the Confederate States of America. Lincoln was determined to keep the country together. "We are not enemies, but friends," he said. "We must not be enemies." It was too late. Fort Sumter in South Carolina was under attack from the South Carolina State Militia. The Civil War had begun and would last from April the 12th, 1861 until April the 9th, 1865. The Civil War was the bloodiest war fought on American soil. Both the North and the South lost anywhere from 620,000 to some say 850,000 soldiers. This was devastating to both the North and the South. Lincoln was also devastated as well. The toll of this war made Lincoln restless, stressed, and simply worn out, as you can see from looking at these pictures. By the end of the war, both sides were worn out and simply ready for it to be over. On April the 9th, 1865, Confederate General Robert E. Lee surrendered to Union General Ulysses S. Grant at Appomattox Courthouse in Virginia. Word spread quickly that the war was over and the North celebrated. Now Lincoln turned his attention toward repairing the damages of war. This time period is called Reconstruction. Lincoln wanted to bring the South back into the Union, with malice toward none, with charity for all. Let us strive on to finish the work we are in, to bind up the nation's wounds. Many in the North disagreed and wanted to punish the South. Lincoln and Congress were working out their plans to bring back the South into the Union when disaster struck. On Good Friday, April the 14th, 1865, President and Mrs. Lincoln asked General Grant to a play called Our American Cousins at Ford's Theater. In Washington, D.C. General Grant and Mrs. Grant turned down the offer because Mrs. Grant had already planned a family trip to the Northeast to visit family. Also, Mrs. Grant and Mrs. Lincoln were unfriendly toward each other and did not want to be seen together. President and Mrs. Lincoln invited Major Henry Rathbone and his fiancée, Clara Harris, to attend the play. Both agreed. Newspapers announced the president and guests would be in attendance for the play. Tickets quickly sold out in a matter of minutes. Little did anyone know, but this exciting night would prove tragic for the Lincolns. Actor John Wilkes Booth, well known in Washington, D.C., was a Southern sympathizer and was very angry that the South had given up their will to fight. Both Booth and his friends, his fellow conspirators, decided that they would do something about this. They decided that they would kill President Lincoln and Vice President Andrew Johnson and Secretary of State William Seward. These attacks were to take place at the same time on the evening of April the 14th. After meeting and planning his attack, Booth made his way to Ford's Theater to pick up his mail and to finalize his deadly plan. Since John Wilkes Booth was well known and often seen around Ford's Theater, no one was suspicious to see him there that day. Booth was free to roam around as he pleased. Eventually, Booth made his way up to the presidential box where Lincoln and guests would be seated. Booth made his way into the box and jammed the lock so that it would later be difficult to open from the outside. Booth even set a music stand just inside the door to use as an extra device to lock the door. On the evening of April the 14th, Lincoln and guests arrived as planned. Cast members and audience members all stood as the band played Hail to the Chief. Lincoln and guests acknowledged the crowd, then all sat down to enjoy the rest of the play. Booth quickly but quietly made his way inside the theater and up the stairs toward the presidential box. The guard assigned to protect Lincoln was not where he was supposed to be. Some say Lincoln had told him to leave. As the play continued, Booth was able to slip inside the presidential box, pull a small pistol from it and pocket from his jacket. Booth knew this play well and knew when the audience would be laughing the loudest. It was at this time when he, Booth, shot the president in the back of the head. Major Rathbone jumped from his seat in an effort to stop Booth. Booth was ready and slashed Rathbone's arm. Booth then made his way to the edge of the box and then sprang out onto the stage. As he jumped, his spurs were caught in the flag, which caused him to land on the stage, thus breaking a bone in his leg. Quickly gathering himself, Booth pointed toward the presidential box and yelled, "Sic Semper Tyrannis," and made his way out the theater and onto a waiting horse. Booth was off into the darkness of Washington, D.C. Booth met up with one of his fellow conspirators and began their escape toward the South, where he had hoped he would be welcomed as a hero for killing the president. Little did he know the next few days would be horrible, and in the end Booth would be shot and killed by U.S. Army soldiers and would not be viewed as a hero for killing Lincoln. Many in the South were upset that Lincoln was killed because he wanted to help bring the South back into the Union peacefully. Eventually, all the conspirators were caught and hanged for their role in the death of our 16th president.